I have to tell you, The History of the Future is a must read for everyone out there. And joining us today is its author, Blake J. Harris. Blake, if you could conceive this 5 years ago, you couldn't even conceive this story. It's such a pleasure. Welcome to the program. You, of course, are the author of the best-selling Console Wars. It's also being, did I hear that legendary entertainment and producer Seth Rogen is producing this for television?
You heard correct. My first book, Console Wars, about the behind-the-scenes drama between Sega and Nintendo from the early 90s, is being produced into a TV series by Seth Rogen and Legendary Pictures, and basically a dream come true for me. And, I have this new book, The History of the Future, about Oculus, Facebook, virtual reality, and to your point, Frankie, I would have had no idea that the story would have ended the way it did when I first set out to write it.
This is such... First of all, what was it about the story that compelled you?
I mean, it really was just the experience, I think, of using Oculus's virtual reality headset. One of the things that interested me was that so many people between 2012 and, say, 2014, right before Oculus sold to Facebook for $3 billion, would try one of these virtual reality headsets and just take it off and say, wow, that's the future. And, we didn't really know what that meant, or especially looking at this from a business standpoint, how to monetize that or how do we move forward. But just that experience was really incredible, and that was certainly a big part of what caught my interest. And then also reading that book, Ready Player One, which was recently adapted into a movie by Steven Spielberg, that was a big inspiration for me, as well as a lot of the people at Oculus and Facebook who got involved with virtual reality.
So, this story is such... what a story. Tell everybody a little bit of the background if they're not familiar of Oculus and how this all unfolded.
Sure. So, the book takes a twist towards the end that we can get into or not spoil for your listeners if you want.
No.
But the beginning of it is... Yeah, but it just starts off, it's really crazy. To me, it's sort of a modern-day American dream story about this 19-year-old kid named Palmer Luckey.
Living in a trailer park, FYI.
Yeah, living in a trailer in Long Beach, California, and the trailer I described in the book, and I think it's one of the things I'm most proud of. It's basically like Walter White's meth van in Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Palmer's trailer has been optimized for virtual reality headsets, and back in 2011, 2012. Nobody cared about virtual reality. He was doing this thing that people thought was weird, that was not going to lead to anything. And then through a strange twist of fate, he was contacted by the legendary game maker John Carmack, who's best known for making games like Doom and Wolfenstein. And then Palmer's journey gets set into motion, and then in less than 2 years, he sells his company to Facebook for almost $3 billion.
Can you imagine?
No, I can't imagine. And one of the most fun parts of this is that Palmer is such an eccentric but grounded person. To him, the best part about making all that money was just that it made it easier for him to do more side projects, like fun stuff with combustion engines and airplanes and stuff that we would never think of. He's a pretty humble guy who really just loves his work, and as a writer, that's fun to write about.
Yeah, I bet. So, you started to look at this story. Where are we today with virtual reality?
That's a good question. So, so much of virtual reality, whether it's from science fiction or, the failed attempt at VR in the 90s, is just about this promise, this vision of the future. And with that comes a lot of hype. And so, Oculus was the beneficiary of that. And sort of raised this whole industry over 2012 to 2014. They released their first consumer VR headset in 2016, as did a company named Valve, who partnered with HTC, and then also Sony PlayStation. So a lot of consumer VR was launched in 2016, and so far, it's been a slow go. I think people are still very bullish about the long-term prospects of virtual reality, but it's just going to take a while to get there. And There's probably, at this point, probably about 5 million headsets out there. But, when Mark Zuckerberg purchased Oculus, and the beginning of the book starts with this, he compared it to the smartphone revolution and was sort of expecting to sell millions and millions and millions of these things within a few years, and that has not been the case, which made for an interesting story, though, as a fan of VR, maybe not a satisfying one.